And then finally wrapping up with Danny Masterson, he has been transferred to a minimum security prison after a brief stay in a maximum security facility. So he was moved to California's men's colony to serve out his 30-year sentence for rape. So he had a change of venue, came just weeks after he was transferred in January to Corcoran State Prison in Central California. It is the same prison where the late Charles Manson was held for 2 decades before his death in 2017. He began his stay at that prison on January 29th, but after just 2 weeks was transported to men's colony. It was Deadline reported that it was due to concerns over the inmates' well-being. So this is a medium and minimum security facility located in Central California, and it gives the opportunity for inmates to enrich their lives while they're in prison. So he was found guilty, as we know, in May of 2023 on 2 counts of rape after initially being charged in June of 2020 with 3 counts of rape. He pleaded not guilty, but he's been since sentenced to 30 years in prison. So why this back and forth, you believe?
Well, Christina, it's really up to the California Department of Corrections. So, prosecutors, the defendant, the incarcerated, his or her family, defense lawyers, even the judge, they don't have a lot of discretion as to where inmates are placed. So if it's in the federal system, it's the Bureau of Prisons, and each state has their own administrative agency that monitors this. And really what they want to do is to make sure, number one, that the inmates are safe. They're not attacked, and someone who's a celebrity like Danny Masterson is always going to be a higher risk of being assaulted. And people that are convicted of sex crimes are also in general more susceptible to attack. The other inmates don't like those types of crimes, and some of it just has to do with prison space and overcrowding, and where they have room for someone that's going to do a 30-year sentence. Last thing you want to do is keep shuffling inmates around. That's always a risk to the inmates and others. So it may just be a space issue. It may be a safety issue. But ultimately, the decision is solely within the California Department of Corrections.
Right. And I know that we have years until he can appeal this case. But do you think that when that time comes that he would have any chance of winning this appeal?
It's going to be really hard for Masterson to win this appeal. First of all, he got the minimum sentence he could. It was a 15-year minimum for each count. And, the jury came back with a guilty verdict with respect to 2 victims. And the judge had no discretion to run them consecutively or at the same time. They have to be back to back. So that's why he got the 30 years. And, ultimately, we're talking about really a question of fact. The jury deciding who is telling the truth, Danny Masterson or the victims. And they came back with 2 of those 3 victims. So there's not a whole lot Masterson can do to appeal this. I expect them to have to spend the next few decades in prison.